welcome to another episode of Live Light and Elite with Legacy Contracts. Whether this is your first time listening or you're returning for more, we're very glad you're here. This is a space for attorneys who want more than just efficiency. You want clarity, purpose, and lasting impact on the way that you practice law, serve your clients, and lead your firm. Our mission for this platform is simple: to lift the burden, lighten the load, and help you lead with clarity. Through practical insights, thoughtful guidance, and honest conversations, we explore what it truly takes to build not just a better firm, but a better way to work. If that's the kind of growth that you're seeking, you are in the right place. So today's topic is from our blog titled The Intake Blind Spot: How Firms Lose Cases Before They Ever Open a File. With this episode today, it'll be our last episode for 2025, but it'll also close out our Behind the Concept segment as well. So for 2026, we're going to be starting a brand new segment, so we hope that you tune in for that. But getting into intake processes, so with the process and strategies and the challenges that come with that, a lot of law firms, in our experience, have had a challenging time with establishing an intake process, whether it's big law firms, medium, small, solo attorneys. We've seen it all. What's been especially interesting, though, with bigger and medium-sized law firms is that the challenge is kind of the opposite side of the same coin. It's the same thing with smaller and solo attorneys. Is just because of the sizes, they bring out different challenges. And for bigger to medium-sized law firms, it's been pretty interesting to see the challenge there, because you would assume that with being a bigger law firm, they would have more manpower, more systems in place, more optimized workflows. But at least from what we've seen, because they are a bigger law firm, they have a much bigger reputation. They normally have a lot of overworked employees, people who don't have the bandwidth to handle more cases coming in, let alone the ones that they're already working on. So that's kind of the opposite side of the same coin, whereas smaller attorneys, or even like the ones who are not as medium-sized as majority of the ones that are out there, their challenge seems to be the quite opposite, where they have an overworked intake process where it's like either way too detailed or they have way too many steps just to get people in the door. So with today's segment, we're going to be talking about a lot of blind spots with both sized law firms. This could kind of be fit for anybody, the bigger, the medium, the smaller, or the solos. Anybody could kind of find themselves in any of these processes. And we really want to make sure that these blind spots are taken care of, especially with closing out 2025. You want to be able to have a better 2026 and really take care of a lot of the negative statistics that you've seen with intake processes across the board. So we're going to start this working from the bottom up. We'll begin this discussing a lot of myths for the intake process. Then we'll look at where firms may miss the mark, and then we'll end with practical ways to build predictable intake and some reflection questions as well. So there's about 4 intake myths that we have at least seen. There's a lot more that are out there, but the 4 that we'll be discussing is the myth that it's not marketing, that it's not clients just shopping around, it's not seasonal, and it's just structure. So the first one being that it's not marketing. We, at least in our experience, have seen that it is a myth. A lot of attorneys miss this opportunity to use it as marketing, or even as a marketing tool to get clients through the door. Intake just means taking in potential clients. It doesn't have to be people who will be paying for your services. It could be somebody who creates an additional funnel for you as well. They could be a referral, and that could create a whole other relationship with you and other attorneys that are in your area or within whatever niche that you handle. It could also be a way for you to get to know which ways these clients are finding you. If they found you through just Google, you could optimize Google ads. If they found you through a blog post or an article that you wrote, that lets you know that these are getting traction, you probably can continue to do more on those. If they saw you through your social media, that's a way for you to know that you need to absolutely maximize your social media and your postings just to be able to reach more people. So the myth that it's not marketing is something that I've seen a lot of people talk about. And the one thing that I do actually like is seeing some businesses and even law firms who ask like, hey, how did you find us? That's a way to kind of maximize on those opportunities as well, to see, okay, we have more people who are coming in through these funnels or through these avenues. And that's also a better way to track your KPI reportings as well. The second myth that it's not client shopping around. A lot of clientels, or even just a lot of people in general, when it comes to law, they don't really know what they need. They may have an understanding that they want like a business attorney when they actually need like a tax attorney. Or if they think that they need a criminal attorney, but they actually need a personal injury. It's a lot of gray areas when it comes to what kind of law that they're looking for. So a lot of clients may just be shopping around, and a lot of them are actually pretty serious, but this is a space for you to absolutely maximize on that. If they're just trying to get a feel for the pricing, especially when it comes to like estate planning, some people may just be shopping around trying to see what they need to pay an attorney for and what they could just do for themselves, and also seeing what the prices are. They may just be looking around to see what's the general that they may have to pay for an attorney and what are some things that they could just try to hire a paralegal for. So the myth that it's not client shopping around does tend to hurt a lot of law firms, because when you are able to recognize that and see those patterns in your intake process, you may be able to save a lot more time than investing up front, when in reality they were just trying to get their foot in the door and see what's out there. The third one, that it's not seasonal dips. This doesn't really affect, at least in our opinion, doesn't really affect a lot of attorneys, because there are some law firms where it is a seasonal dip. If you're a tax attorney, you could find, a lot of them do have clients that are year round, but you see a lot of seasonal dips around tax season. In a general sense, there's not seasonal dips, or there are seasonal dips, but this doesn't really tend to have like a huge effect on them, but it is something worth pointing out. And the last one is that it's just structure. Your intake process is a lot more than structure. Structure is a huge part of it, but it is also strategy. It's also intentions. It's also empathy. There's a lot of things that go into your intake process. And starting by putting yourself in the shoes of your target audience should get you to see that your intake just being structured is a complete and total myth. That's like a whole bigger thing that we will continue to get into with this podcast. So with that, leading into the next part of this is discussing where firms miss the mark. There are also 4 items here that we will be discussing as well. So the first one is that where firms miss the mark is with slow follow-ups. Clio actually does a lot of statistics. I think they do like either per year or on a bi-yearly basis with statistics of how long it takes for law firms and attorneys to get back to their clientele. And I think like one of the worst years was either between 2022 to 2024. Or right at the peak of the pandemic, which that was understandable because everybody was trying to transition at that point. But law firms and attorneys they're pretty much notorious for getting back to potential clients very, very slowly. When we used to do, not necessarily like a secret shopper, but we would call around and we would test leads, or potential leads for the firm just to kind of see how long it would take. And I think the longest that we've seen is it took one attorney, it took his office like a week to even give us an email back. And that email was like, oh, we're not able to help you. So letting the main attorney know that, he was just like, oh yeah, that's completely unacceptable. It should not be taking our office that long. But it was a good starting point for him at least to kind of realize that there was a lot of things that was slowing his office down. And if your intake process is doing that right out the gate, that is not a good sign at all. You miss, I think, between 30 to 70% of potential new clients, or even just your clientele in general, by not having a consistent and well thought out intake process. So that is for the first part, is that slow follow-up. The second one is that you have no standardized questions. You need clear questions that really are in alignment with the kind of clientele that your firm wants. You don't have to take everybody who comes calling. You are able to have your own customized and characterized list of the kind of clientele that you want to have, the people that you want to represent, and the ones that you feel empowered to do so. And it's not just a good thing for you, it's a good thing for your clients as well, so that they know that, oh, they're not just taking any John Doe who walks in through the door. They have a list, they have people who they're looking for, and it gives off more confidence as well, so that the clients are like, oh, they're not just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. They know what they're looking for, and so that gives off more confidence that you'll be able to handle their case as well, because you know where you stand and you know what you can do and you know you can do it for. The third one is weak client communication. So if you're not communicating with your prospects about what you can do, how you can do it, what the process is, what it looks like, you've already lost half of your potential clients right off the bat. Just communicating with them like, either we'll get back to you in 24 hours or we'll refer this to an attorney, and it takes 72 hours to hear back from them, and they'll give you like some kind of summarized or detailed explanation as to why we can't help you, or they'll provide you with next steps. Just giving them some kind of summarized foundation so that they know what they can expect, because uncertainty literally just means that they'll go looking for somebody else who can give them certainty. And that's not something that, uncertainty is not something you want to provide right off the bat. That's not something that you want to have or even show with potential clients who are not even in the door yet. If you're uncertain in your intake process, that doesn't really give much confidence that you'll be certain with the rest of your law firm process. And the fourth one is no funnel tracking. If you don't track these leads who are coming in through the door, you won't be able to successfully convert them. You won't know how many are coming in, how many you're successfully converting, how many you're referring out. And that the less information that you have, the less you're prepared on what to do. Because even if you're not converting your leads, you'll still be able to know, why are we getting people that we can't convert? Where is the issue there? What are we not conveying properly to be able to really zone in on the clientele that we do want to convert? The final step in this podcast is building a predictable intake process. So we have 4 steps that we do mention and go more in depth in our blog, followed up with 3 reflection questions that we'll also provide to you in the show notes. So the first part is establishing at least a 30-minute response standard. Just having that first part of that trust building, where speed is essential and it's very crucial during the intake process. The next part is using some kind of standardized intake script. When they're calling in, being able to have some kind of script. Welcome to such and such law firm. My name is Courtney. How can I help you? Or if they're sending you an email, having a standardized script that's an immediate response to them. Thank you for reaching out to this law firm. One person or somebody from our team will get back to you within 24 hours. We appreciate your patience and thank you, or just something along those lines. Being able to convey clarity. The third step is defining that next step for every single lead, the ones that you are converting and the ones that you aren't converting. Do not end any transaction with any lead that comes in the door without telling them what comes next, giving them something to look forward to with an appropriate timeline, so that they don't immediately just go call somebody else. And the fourth step is tracking your conversion rates on a weekly basis, or a bi-weekly basis, or even a monthly basis, depending on how many leads you're getting in through the door. But just making sure that you have an appropriate system to expose any patterns that you want to be able to maximize on, or any patterns that you want to be able to expose and fix and be able to redo or discuss on what you can possibly do to replace them. So we'll end this with 3 reflection questions. So the first one is, how quickly does your firm respond to new inquiries? Where are prospects dropping off within your intake process? And what is one step you can immediately do to increase your lead conversions? And that is it for today's episode. If this concept resonated with you, please feel free to read the full blog on our website, or you can listen to the AI voiceover of that blog on our YouTube channel. But here on this podcast, we'll delve deeper, exploring the concepts, culture, and practices that help you build clarity through calm. We hope today's insights help you practice with more calm, confidence, and clarity. And we hope that you've enjoyed our now completed segment of the Behind the Concept podcast. So remember that law firms aren't built overnight, but they're built every day that you choose to grow. We are wishing you a very safe rest of 2025, and we look forward to seeing you in 2026. This is Legacy Contracts, and until next time, keep leading with clarity.